We have another big day in the NHL waiver wire, this time with another claim, plus several more players placed on waivers for the purpose of being assigned to the minors. We also have an update in Minnesota with a Ryan Hartman extension, and bad news in Ottawa, Josh Norris still not ready to return, even though we're on the eve of the NHL season getting started. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some big news from the NHL waiver wire, as well as some other quick details we want to discuss here in today's video. Of course, we will be back later with another recap of the news and trade talk around the NHL. But for right now, let's get on to the breaking news from the waivers. The Vegas Golden Knights have put in a claim, and they've picked up former first-round pick Grigory Denisenko from the Florida Panthers. As I mentioned yesterday, talking about the fact that he was on waivers in the first place, Denisenko at one point was a highly regarded prospect that was viewed upon probably the first year to 2 years after his draft, which I believe he was drafted in 2018. So he was considered like one of the top prospects outside of the game. Many people would have had him probably top three for a while. And then, of course, the last couple of years, his stock has kind of fallen a little bit. He's had more opportunity to come to North America, make the Panthers, play in their minor league system, and he really has not been able to put it together to the extent that he was expected to. So obviously this is a fresh start for him. This is an opportunity to go to a championship caliber team. I'm not sure what kind of role they're going to give him. Obviously claiming him now, he'll be on their roster for opening night. So where they'll slot him in the lineup, I'm not exactly sure. But Denisenko hopefully will go to Vegas and get more of a chance and see if he can kind of, get that opportunity he's been seeking. So Denisenko is the only claim today. Everybody else that was on waivers from yesterday, including Wade Allison of the Flyers, which was one of the more interesting names, have cleared. Now we do have several more players on waivers today. This list also includes some interesting names, so I'll be real curious to see if we have any claims tomorrow. Now tomorrow will actually be the final, because if you think about it, rosters are going to be due for cap purposes Monday. I believe it's Monday at 5 o'clock Eastern is when they have to have everything submitted and be cap compliant to start the regular season. So tomorrow will be the final day they have a chance to put players on waivers if they need to demote them for salary cap purposes. So tomorrow should be probably even more interesting than today, I would suspect. Today's list of waiver options include the Boston Bruins placing forwards Oskar Steen and Jesper Vokvist on waivers, as well as Jacob Zboril. So interesting there. Could be some interest in those guys, hard to say. The Sabres have a few defensemen, Cale Clegg and Riley Stillman, as well as Brandon Biro. The Blue Jackets have Trey Fix-Walensky on waivers. The Colorado Avalanche have Bradley Hunt and Jack Aucan. The Edmonton Oilers have forward Brad Malone, goaltender Calvin Pickard, as well as Phil Kemp and Cam Dineen. The Los Angeles Kings have another young promising prospect in Tyler Madden. Of course, they've had a lot of guys go through waivers here recently. Of course, some have been assigned. They did lose Fagemo a few days back. The Devils have Shane Bowers, Justin Dowland and Tyce Thompson, then as well as Max Willman. Now, Max Willman's actually being signed. He's being put on waivers because he's getting a one-year contract. He was there with the Devils on a PTO. It's going to be a two-way deal. I believe the American Hockey League salary is going to be around $120, and then league minimum with the NHL, so he'll have to clear waivers to be assigned. But before this, he was just in camp on a tryout. The Nashville Predators also have Denis Gurianov, so that's interesting as well. I'd be curious to see if Gurianov survives this or if he gets picked up elsewhere. Obviously, he's struggled lately, but again, when you start looking at some of these interesting names, whether it be Oskar Steen or Tyler Madden, it makes you kind of wonder if any of these guys could get a chance like Gurianov. And then we have another interesting goalie from Seattle, Chris Driedger. So that tells us that Joey Daccord is going to start the year in Seattle, which is exactly what I suspected. He is another guy who doesn't have much left to accomplish in the minors and needs to be given a chance. I suspected they were going to do everything they could to keep Daccord in the Kraken roster this year, and that Driedger probably was going to be the odd man out after missing an entire season because of injury. He's kind of fallen out of, I wouldn't say he's fallen out of favor, but he's fallen a step behind. and his value to the organization is not what it used to be. Be curious to see if he does get picked up, though, because he has had some good runs, especially during his time with Florida. So again, we know that there's some teams out there that have interest in a goalie, predominantly Lightning and the Avalanche, too, another team to watch. So we'll see about Driedger there. The Kraken also have a young defenseman, Cale Fleury, as well as John Hayden on waivers as well. So a good amount of names. I wouldn't be shocked if we've seen any of the Kraken guys, Driedger or Hayden especially. Guryanov's an interesting one. Oscar Steen. Maybe a Tyler Madden. You just never know. Like, there's some names there that could surprise. So we'll have to see. Some teams you can tell based on their movement that they've already kind of have their opening night roster set. Some are still making the final tweaks. There's some final round of exhibition games today and tonight, and we'll see what teams do. But it should be another busy day tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a claim or two. And again, like I say, a bunch more players going on waivers because it'll be the last day in order to get cap compliant for Monday. Some other quick items that we're keeping an eye on here. One, on last night's video, I talked about a pending contract extension for the Minnesota Wild and centerman Ryan Hartman. As of last night, it still wasn't finalized, but I see earlier today it was announced. So just as we suspected, that was being reported by Elliot Friedman. He gets a 3-year contract extension valued at $4 million per year. He does have a no move in the final year, and I believe they were backdating a no move clause to the end of this year as well, because when you do that, you can make it retroactive to the final year of the old contract, which they did do that. So that's, as I talked about yesterday. I mean, that's Hartman, Zuccarello, and Foligno all extended 3 or 4 years. Again, nothing against these players. They're all pretty good. They have good value to Minnesota. I don't know that Billy Guerin's doing the right thing here. To me, they're getting older, and they're kind of almost back to where they were when they took over. They're kind of in that mushy middle. They're a good team. They're probably good enough to make the playoffs. I just don't see them being good enough to do damage in the playoffs and just kind of being mediocre. And that's a dangerous spot to be in to me. You either want to be fighting for the cup, or you need, at some point, you got to bottom out and get some high picks. And they just seem to be content to stay in the middle. And, maybe some Wild fans will disagree with me on that. I don't know, but that's just kind of the strategy I see, and I'm just not sure it's for the best, but we'll see. Another developing story, we'll probably touch on this later in the next video, as hopefully more information comes to light, but it looks as though one of the top 6 centers for the Ottawa Senators, Josh Norris, will not be ready to start the season. We know that he's been skating plenty, started training camp in a non-contact jersey, then he shedded that, went to a contact jersey. Everything appeared to be going well, and then we were told that he had a setback. We've heard a variety of stories back at the beginning of camp when it was started with no contact. Pierre Dorian even said that if it were the regular season starting today, he'd be playing. And then it changed to, well, we're being extra cautious. And then DJ Smith made comments to kind of saying that he had to be physically and mentally prepared to play, which made everybody think that maybe he was having as much of a mental issue with it than it is physical, because obviously being out a long time, you're nervous that you're going to re-injure yourself. I get that. That can be hard on your mental health, and I'm sure athletes deal with that kind of stuff all the time. And, obviously sometimes I probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that they sometimes need some professional help in helping them overcome those thoughts. But then now they're saying that Norris is frustrated, and that it's the doctors and the training staff that are telling him he can't play. It's just the story has changed so much that it's just bizarre. So nobody really knows what to believe anymore. I know that if he goes on long-term injury reserve to start the season, you have to miss 10 games and 24 days. Normally it's one or the other, but season opening LTIR is different. So he would be out until early November. I think it's November the 8th or 10th or whatever it is when they play the Leafs, would be if he goes on LTIR, that's what they have to do. Now, if they LTIR him, I would hope they would make an effort to get Pinto signed by tomorrow to get him in the lineup, because they're going to be awfully thin down the middle with no Norris and no Pinto. For a team who's put the emphasis on making it super important to have a good start this year and get into the playoffs, they have a bad start again, and it's because Norris isn't healthy and they can't sign Pinto. They are going to be up a creek again. And I just don't think the organization can handle that. Like, that's just going to put a lot of things at jeopardy. So I don't know why this is so difficult to get Pinto signed. If Norris is going to go on LTIR, use the cap space to get Pinto signed, get him in the lineup, and then you have a month to make your decisions on moving another player to make the space. Like, they need to get on that because it's at the utmost importance. But we'll see what happens there. But it's definitely a story we want to follow and see what happens because that's just not good. Not good at all on a variety of levels. So let me know your thoughts on today's news in the comments. We'll discuss further any players in particular you think are going to be most likely to be claimed, and we'll discuss that. And of course, like I said, we'll be back later with another video recapping the rest of the news and some trade rumors from around the NHL. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, stick around, and I'll catch you next time.